Hi, this is Annalise Antoinette. I am here today with Edoardo Costa. Edoardo is Italian and he is an enthusiastic learner of and student of astrology, magic, and the esoteric. So I'm actually interviewing on behalf of Rufus Opus and Academia Hermetica. Eduardo, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So, we're here to talk about transits. And the way I understand transits is it's when two bodies or planets move past each other or are somehow related in one's natal chart. Can you talk to us a little bit about what exactly are transits?
Okay, so basically transits are the way the planets right now in this moment, or really any moment you choose, interface with the planets that are in our natal chart. So when you say transits, you basically need um, to compare two charts, which the majority of time, like when you say, let's see the current chart, the current transits, you look at the actual position of the planets right now in the sky, and you compare them to, let's say, your natal chart to see how the transits affect you in that moment. And of course, seeing that we can predict the cycles of the planets, we can also predict what kind of events will happen in the life of um, anybody you have a natal chart of. And with transits, you can predict not the exact event of that is going to happen in your life, but you can predict the typology, the archetypal nature of the event that will happen to you or to, somebody else. Let's say that you have a client and you have, the natal chart of that client. You can see what is going through right now by looking at the planets that, um, let's say, what the planets are doing right now, and basically compare it to his own natal chart. And based on the position of these planets in his natal chart and the relationships that these planets right now establish with his own natal planets, you can basically derive meaning from that and yeah, predict stuff and see what is happening, or really also what happened in the past, in the past, or in what will happen in the future.
So, I took a few notes from our talking earlier. Please ignore my dog. You also explained how transits are a fast and effective way to confirm that astrology works. Can you speak to that a little bit, please?
Yeah, so far from being the only method of predictive astrology, I had to precise that astrological transits are um, a method of predictive astrology that I encountered when I still didn't know about, like professional annual profections or other maybe more contemporary, so to speak, stuff like zodiacal releasing, which is fairly recent. But anyway, I used astrological transits to prove to myself, basically, that astrology worked. You could say, um, by having a you can basically use them as a very fast feedback system, especially when you examine the moon transits to your natal planets, because the moon transits are very fast. You can they last something like 1 hour and a half to 2 3 hours. There is this window of time. So basically, if you want to see how an archetype, how the moon archetype interacts with an archetype of your natal chart, be it, I don't know, Mercury, Mars, or even your natal moon, you can do so. You can have feedback. You can verify what will happen and what they are. You can live it, basically. You can experience it um, in a very efficient and fast way through moon transits. And there is this window of time. You can also have multiple lunar transits to your natal planets in a day, and you can experience the kind of events, the archetypal atmosphere, the archetypal, let's say, I don't know how to say that, the archetypal mood around the whole happening, so to speak, in this window of time. So if we make an example, we could say that maybe, I don't know, there is a transit of the moon. The moon right now is transiting in Scorpio, and it's squaring, let's say, your Mars in Leo, your natal Mars in Leo. And as soon as the moon starts to get in orbit, you start to feel the effects. And it's strange because in my experience, sometimes the event is like instant and you can't do anything to avoid it. And even if you try to avoid it, like whatever you do, you just push it into manifestation even faster. And that's horrible when that happens. It's like you can't escape your destiny. Are you trying to? Yeah, sure, try it. Try. And then of course the gods like give you they basically
The gods laugh.
manifest yeah. So let's say the moon is squaring, is applying a square to your natal Mars. In these 1.5 to maybe 3 hours, in this window of time that goes maybe from 6 o'clock to 8, 9 o'clock p.m., you will experience something that relates to the nature of the moon and Mars, and of course, the nature of the aspect. If the aspect is harmonious, you're going to experience some good manifestation, some good interaction between these two archetypes. If the transit applies, like if the moon applies a disharmonious aspect, like a square or an opposition, or maybe even a conjunction, if it's conjuncting a malefic like Saturn or Mars, you will experience most probably a negative manifestation of this transit. And this will manifest in your life like, I don't know, the moon is associated to emotions, the mother, also family, the home, emotions, the unconscious, dreams. And Mars, of course, is the lesser malefic, and it's associated when the aspect is negative or challenging, as moderns like to say, like aggressiveness, violence, inflammation, injuries, disharmony, like litigations, discussions, heated arguments, etc. So if a man is, sorry, if the moon is transiting and is squaring, if the transiting moon is squaring your natal Mars, you will experience I don't know, maybe some kind of discussion with your mother, an argument with also a woman, because the moon is also associated to women. Or maybe you could do as I did, you could try to avoid it, and you can like find a place where you will be alone and delude yourself into thinking that you could skip that transit. And then of course, the gods, yes, will laugh, and the transit will find a way to manifest. Like you will have some kind of thought that will trigger you. You will think about something bad. You will get angry or mad at someone because like a memory comes up, or like you slam your little finger into a piece of furniture. Yeah, it happens. It happened to me. And of course, the emotion comes up, and the transit in the end manifests. And yeah, that's like how it manifests sometimes. Or yeah, go on.
Uh, so it's interesting. You said not to try to avoid it because that almost amplifies it or intensifies it. So, how do we best approach the transit by embracing it? How can we use it to our advantage, or how can we lessen the effects, or how can we best incorporate those lessons of those transits in order to make the best possible elevating experience without having some of the bad effects that could happen?
Well, that's a nice question. Unfortunately, I'm still figuring it out. Um, because this leaks into the territory of free will and what we are doing here on Earth and as souls. And I don't know, sometimes the transits don't manifest, and you are left there like baffled because you're like, what? The moon was squaring Pluto. Emotional carnage had to happen, but it didn't. Wow, incredible. Some other times you're like super incredibly cool and serene and tranquil, and then hell breaks loose.
So I
And so how to, yeah.
Well, it makes me think, for example, you gave the situation where the moon could be transiting my square natal Mars, which could indicate I get in a fight with my mother, for example. Could I then know in advance this is going to happen? I know I have a phone call coming up with my mother. Could I take that time then to try to be more patient, to try to not react to things I might otherwise automatically react to? Like, would that be helpful, or is that an example of fighting it too much?
Good luck with that.
Okay, so
So
it's not gonna work.
um, I mean, what I meant with that joke is that basically sometimes we have to, our soul maybe has to develop a way to cope with these events, and sometimes you just get triggered. You can't. It's, I mean, it's the nature of the transit. You wouldn't leave the moon squaring Mars. That means emotional imbalances, emotional conflict. That's like the perfect archetypal manifestation of that kind of transit. So yes, you can like you can work with that, I guess, but you gotta get triggered unless you're like some kind of super incredible mystic initiate that has acquired some kind of level of transcendence, which I mean, I'm still far from that, so it's not my experience. It's not something that I can wrap my head around right now in this phase of my life at my current level of knowledge, experience. I don't know.
Well, I love the
So yeah,
honesty in
you.
that answer, actually. That's that's
Sorry,
helpful.
what?
I love the honesty in your answer. That's very helpful and refreshing. So thank you.
And also there is another thing. I took an interest in somatic practice, somatic experiencing also, and also because of let's say personal events in my life that pushed me into looking at this kind of stuff. And this really, in a way, it's oh my god, how do you say when something is intersected, like this really intersected with my study of astrology, because of questions like yours, like how do you work with that, and can you avoid the transit? Or if not, can you work with it? And yes, how then can you work with it? How can you deal with Mars triggering your emotions right in that moment? And the answer is, in my opinion, is not to suppress it, is not to repress the reaction, but is to work with it. And when you are triggered, you have to find a way to channel that. Or if you want to repress it, then you have to work with that after the event and let that energy, that emotional energy come out when later you're in a safe space, in a safe place, and you're far from people that you could hurt, or think that you're crazy if you're like pulling out all this emotional energy that got stuck because you didn't express it because it could be destructive or stuff like that. So I guess that um, stuff like somatic experiencing, somatic medicine, stuff like that, and psychology is useful in the study of astrology and also in the study of transits and how we can work with them and grow spiritually, grow from them. Because otherwise, it's just a game about, yeah, look, I can predict. I can predict how reality works. I can predict events. Ooh, look at me! I can predict stuff, but it's not useful to anyone.
Well, it's really neat how fast the transits happen, particularly with the moon. And what you were saying about not just confirming that astrology works, but then fully experiencing it. So we can take those lessons in that hour and a half, 2 hour time period, see what worked, see what didn't, and then reapply them the next time it comes around. So it's
Yes,
almost like this immediate feedback loop to us growing and becoming, in some ways, a better person because we can act immediately on what we've learned, right?
that's the difficult thing, though.
Yeah, for
You
sure.
you can like you can try to yes you can try to be. Uh, you see, the problem is not doing something different. The problem is being different. Is changing yourself because you can act differently. Yes, you can fake it till you make it. However, when I always say that up there, they know much more than us and they know exactly how to trigger us
Mhm.
and how to pull out all our deepest vulnerabilities and weak points. And I mean, we're here to work on those. And yeah, you can try. It's yes. The bottom line is that you can try, but it's going to be difficult because the problem is being different. It's not trying to do something different because when you do something in a different way, you create friction between the internal environment and the external world, what you are and how you act. If instead you try uh, to be differently, um, then the actions come as a byproduct and it's natural. But it's very different to be different, to change yourself. That's like I guess the whole spiritual work we are doing here.
Yes, I agree. And I do think the friction is important for us to experience. I love that lobster analogy. There was a meme going around with a rabbi that was talking about how lobsters only grow when there's friction within their shell, and then they start to grow larger and larger.
Mm.
And I don't know, I kind of like that metaphor for us as humans as well. So this transit talk is actually very interesting. I'm really looking forward to hearing you speak more on these things during the weekly talks with Academia Hermetica you'll be doing with Rufus Opus. Is there anything else during this talk now on transits that you would like to add before we wrap up?
Uh, I don't know. I guess that covers it. We
Excellent.
can. I guess we will talk to. We will talk more about it during the weekly chats. I'll be glad to.
Fantastic. Oh, well, I really look forward to that. And Eduardo, thank you so much for your time. If folks want to find you, they can find you on Facebook at Eidos The Ivory Tower. It's facebook.com/Eidos The Ivory Tower. And any viewers or listeners, if you can actually see the screen right now, you'll see that Eduardo has Eidos The Ivory Tower written out. It's EIDOSTHEIVORY Eidos The Ivory Tower. And that's kind of a fun play on words, right, Eduardo?
Yeah, because my first name is Edoardo, and a diminutive. What's is it good? Diminutive,
Mm-hmm.
like Edo for
Yes.
Edoardo. So originally it should have been called Eidos, the Ivory Tower. So the Ivory Tower of Edo. However, the it sounded bad. It wasn't really also English friendly or Facebook page friendly. So I thought that using the Greek word eidos was a nice joke, so to say.
Yes, I love it. That's great. Okay, thank you so much for being here. I
Thank you
appreciate
for
your
giving me
time.
this
It's,
opportunity.
I really look forward to speaking with you again. Have a wonderful day. Thanks, Eduardo.
You too. Thank you.